They proceeded without seeking approval. They moved without awaiting a signal. They were resolute in their desires, and they seized them without hesitation. What could possibly be the most disheartening aspect? I refrained from intervening. I allowed it to unfold. That moment lingers in my mind, a shadow that follows me relentlessly. Not due to any coercion? Negative. It is due to my desire for it, a longing that surpassed even my wildest dreams. The sensation, the peril, the inherent wrongness of it all nourished a part of me I had never realized was there. I longed to say that I resisted it. I longed to express that I wept or shouted or fled from the space. Yet that would be a falsehood. Today, I stand before you to share nothing but the unvarnished truth, the unvarnished, unrefined, and undeniably chaotic reality. Before I delve further, I wish to pause and express my gratitude to each and every one of you who are tuning in at this moment. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to my subscribers. Your unwavering support is the lifeblood that sustains this channel's momentum. To all my new and returning viewers who have yet to click that subscribe button, I acknowledge your presence. I understand your feelings. Your click on that subscribe button is the very essence, the driving force, the pulse that invigorates this space. I can hardly contain my excitement. Kindly remember to share your reflections in the comments below. Each word you contribute breathes life into this narrative. Let us return to that afternoon, the instant that shattered my being. Samantha Reed is my name. At the age of 42, I find myself residing in the serene suburbs of Dallas, Texas. The pace of life here unfolds gently, foreseeable, uninspiring to say the least. In my 20s, I graced the world of modeling, tall and blonde, with legs that once strode the illustrious runway of Paris Fashion Week. Yet that belonged to a different era. In this chapter of my life, I find myself as a housewife, wed to Daniel, a business executive whose presence is often felt more in airports and hotel suites than within the walls of our home. Daniel is the father of 2 sons from a prior marriage named Tyler and Dylan. We nurtured them side by side from their teenage years. They were admirable young men, or so I believed them to be. At 23, Tyler exudes confidence and vitality, a striking figure who commands attention the moment he steps into a room. At the age of 21, Dylan has become more reserved, reflective. Yet those eyes, deep and heavy-lidded, perpetually observing, conveyed messages his lips never found the courage to utter. It commenced on a Saturday afternoon during the waning days of spring. Daniel had taken flight to Phoenix for a business expo, leaving me at home with the boys. I donned a relaxed white tank top paired with soft cotton shorts. Nothing extravagant, merely my go-to attire for cleaning or lounging at home. That morning I found myself gazing into the mirror. The curves remained, the skin retained its smoothness, and the fire, it seemed, had merely been in slumber. The air conditioner lay inoperative, leaving the house to simmer in a stifling heat reminiscent of a sauna. Tyler lounged in the living room, his shirt absent, beads of sweat shimmering on his skin as he flicked through the TV channels. Dylan lingered in the kitchen, a chilled beverage in hand, his gaze unwavering as I strolled past. I noticed his gaze not fixed upon my face, but rather drifting lower. I feigned ignorance, yet I did. As I leaned down to retrieve a fallen fork, a gentle whistle floated through the air behind me. I pivoted, a chuckle escaping my lips, feigning irritation. "Be cautious, Amanda," Tyler remarked, his gaze fixed intently on my thighs. That ensemble could prove to be overwhelming for us to manage. I let out an exasperated sigh, my heart racing within my chest. "You are mature individuals. I am, for heaven's sake, your stepmother." "Precisely," Dylan murmured softly from behind me. "Not our mother." The sentence was heavy with meaning, a sensation akin to a key engaging with a lock. I urged myself to exit the room. I resolved to establish clear boundaries. Instead, I made my way to the fridge, bending down with intention, slower than necessary, as I reached for a bottle of water. Their quietude lingered behind me, conveying all that needed to be said. In the blink of an eye, I sensed a change in the atmosphere. Tyler trailed just behind me, his presence palpable, excessively near. His breath lingered, warm and tantalizing against my neck. I pivoted, poised to deliver a cutting remark, but his hand had already found its way to my hip. "I can sense your thoughts," he remarked. I found myself wanting to reject it. I felt an overwhelming urge to strike him. Yet I found myself unable to stir. Dylan moved nearer, his fingertips brushing against my arm. Your gaze upon us, Amanda, does not go unnoticed. You don't even attempt to conceal it. My voice faltered, trapped in my throat. My knees buckled beneath me. I found myself positioned between them, caught in a tight embrace. My stepsons. The very boys I nurtured and guided. The very same boys I used to tuck into bed during their childhood. In that instant, the only sensation that consumed me was the warmth slithering up my spine. I am your father's wife, I murmured, almost as if the words were meant for my own ears more than theirs. And he is never around, Tyler murmured, his lips grazing my ear. You are worthy of greater things. I longed to express that I distanced myself. Yet I let out a piercing scream and dashed up the stairs, securing the door behind me. I remained. I sensed their touch. One rests upon my waist, while another glides over my thigh. My body turned against me. Every nerve stirred to life. Every inch of my being ignited with fire. Suddenly I found myself in motion. They led me down the corridor. I yielded without a fight. I was unable to. My breath trembled. My body seemed to belong to another, as if I were merely a spectator in my own skin. We arrived at my bedroom. Tyler swung the door wide, stepping into the unknown. Dylan shut the door firmly behind us. I remained there, my bare feet touching the ground, trembling, lost in thought, and filled with a deep sense of pain. Silence enveloped them. They took action. Hands intertwined, lips brushed softly, skin met with a warmth that felt both urgent and languid, a whirlwind of sensations, unfolding in a mesmerizing dance of time. My heart pounded within my chest, guilt twisted in my gut, yet pleasure enveloped them both. I found myself adrift, submerged. I found myself reluctant to break the surface, to emerge from the depths. It was untamed, incorrect, prohibited. Yet amidst that chaotic whirlwind of desire and yearning, I experienced a vitality I hadn't known in years. As the echoes of the moment faded, I found myself enveloped in silence, my heart still pounding, my body alive with energy, gazing up at the ceiling fan that lazily twirled above my bed. Tyler reclined against the headboard. Dylan reclined next to me, his fingers meandering gently over my abdomen. Silence enveloped the room. Yet I felt an undeniable truth within me. My life would never return to its former state. The dawn that followed was akin to emerging from a dream, as if inhabiting a body that was not one's own. Sunlight poured through the curtains, enveloping the tangled sheets that clung to my legs in a gentle embrace. My eyes fluttered open gradually, acclimating to the gentle glow. In that fleeting instant, the events that had transpired slipped from my mind. In that fleeting instant, a sense of normalcy enveloped the surroundings. As I rolled over, my gaze fell upon Dylan, bare-chested and lost in slumber, his form etched against the crisp white sheets that enveloped us. In that moment, the weight of guilt descended upon me. It arrived not in waves. It struck with the force of a heavy weight, leaving a profound impact. Swift, incisive, and constricting. I shot up, gripping the blanket tightly against my chest, my heart racing with the intensity of a battle cry. My body throbbed in areas that had long been free from discomfort, and my thoughts, they howled. I slipped out of bed softly, wary of disturbing him, apprehensive of the consequences that might unfold if our gazes crossed once more. With careful steps, I made my way down the hallway to the bathroom, secured the door behind me, and gazed at my reflection in the mirror. The figure gazing back at me was not Samantha Reed, the devoted wife and stepmother. She was a different person entirely. Her lips bore a swollen fullness. Her neck displayed subtle traces, crimson and delicate. What about her eyes? Untamed, filled with a sense of shame, charged with energy. I activated the faucet, letting the cold water cascade over my face, attempting to cleanse away the remnants of the day. Yet the shame had already taken hold, embedding itself deep within my being, and no quantity of soap or boiling water could cleanse the stain of my actions. When I finally emerged, both boys had already made their way downstairs. Tyler stood at the kitchen counter pouring cereal into a bowl as if the world around him had remained unchanged. Dylan lingered at the table, phone grasped in his hand, scrolling with a smirk playing on his lips. I stood motionless on the bottom step. A part of me yearned to unleash a scream. Another part yearned to retreat upstairs and seal myself away for eternity. I made my way to the sink, filling a cup with refreshing water. "Did you manage to get some good rest?" Tyler inquired. His gaze averted from my direction. I remained silent. "Indeed," Dylan remarked, his gaze shifting toward me with a blend of amusement and possessiveness. You appeared at ease. I tightened my grip on the cup. Do not speak to me in that manner, I replied, my voice measured and calm. Dylan merely shrugged, displaying an air of indifference. Last night your resistance seemed to wane, I whispered, my thoughts muddled and unclear. Such an occurrence was entirely unwarranted. Yet it did, Tyler remarked, moving nearer, his tone now hushed, gentler. And feigning ignorance will not alter the reality of the situation. With a gentle clink, I placed the cup on the table and turned to leave. As I ascended the stairs, a palpable weight settled upon me, each step feeling increasingly burdensome under the weight of their gaze. The remainder of the day unfolded in a palpable silence, thick with discomfort. I remained in my chamber, drapes pulled tight, observing the surfaces around me. At midday, Daniel reached out, touching base from Phoenix. I allowed it to ring twice before I picked up. Hey, babe, he said, his voice heavy with fatigue. Is everything okay on your end? Indeed, I was not truthful. All is well. Are you certain? Optimistic. What is the atmosphere like at the expo? He spoke uninterrupted for a full 10 minutes. Not a single word reached my ears. My gaze was fixed on the ground, on the very place where Tyler had stood the previous night, murmuring softly into my ear. After the call ended, I nestled into my bed and let the tears flow. Quiet, anguished droplets, for I had wronged an honorable soul, a man who placed his trust in me, a man who offered me the world. Yet amidst the tears there was an undercurrent of something more, an atrocious, ignoble longing. I longed to experience it once more, the very same warmth, that identical audacity. It filled me with nausea, yet it was undeniably real. That evening I compelled myself to prepare dinner. I sought to reclaim a semblance of normalcy, a vibrant medley of chicken and vegetables, expertly tossed in a sizzling pan, grains of rice, a medley of fresh greens and vibrant vegetables. A salad is a delightful composition of flavors and textures. The boys lingered at the table, their conversation flowing effortlessly over basketball, music, and work, as if the weight of the world had simply vanished. I spoke sparingly. Each time our gazes intertwined, I found myself compelled to avert my eyes. Yet a shift had occurred. I perceived it in their gazes, in the manner they reclined in their seats, as if they possessed the very space around them, as if they possessed me entirely. Tyler moved with a certain ease, his hand lightly skimming the small of my back as he passed by. Dylan observed me intently, his gaze laden with unvoiced reflections. I had ceased to be their stepmother. I was something entirely different. The most challenging aspect was the way my body reacted. A flutter in my belly. A flicker ignites within my heart. Each time Daniel's name appeared on my phone, it was as if a blade were turning deeper into my flesh. The guilt transcended mere emotion. It was tangible. It ignited within my skin, the very structure of my being, the rhythm of my breath. Yet I found myself unable to utter the truth. How does one even start to convey to a man that his sons have completely altered the course of their existence? On that particular night, I secured the door to my bedroom. Yet the harm had already been inflicted. As the days unfolded, the situation deteriorated further. The fleeting glances transformed into gentle caresses. The caresses evolved into playful banter, within the corridor, within the confines of the kitchen. One afternoon, as I meticulously folded Daniel's shirts in the laundry room, Dylan entered, quietly closed the door behind him, and stood there, observing me, merely observing. "You miss it, don't you?" he said. I remained silent. He advanced nearer. "Speak your truth." "No," I uttered, my voice barely a whisper. "I do not." It was an error. Yet my hands quivered with uncertainty, and he beheld that. As Tyler stepped in moments later, it was as if the very air had been drawn from the room. The door shut once more. Tyler rested against it, his arms crossed in contemplation. "We long to experience your presence once more," he expressed. The shirt slipped from my grasp. "You are married," Dylan added, "but you belong to us now, as well." "No," I whispered. "I am unable to do that. Kindly." They advanced nearer. In that moment I indeed took flight. I surged past them, ascending the stairs with urgency, and secured myself within the confines of the bathroom. I found myself on the floor, my hands covering my face, swaying gently back and forth, reminiscent of a scared child. In that moment, a chilling realization washed over me. This was far from a mere isolated error. A tempest had arisen, a hidden tempest poised to engulf me entirely. In that moment, I found myself utterly alone, with no one to share my thoughts with. There is no one to lend a hand, not even Daniel. The days that followed melded into one another, each moment weighed down by an overwhelming pressure, suffocating me from within. I steered clear of Dylan and Tyler whenever I could. I remained in my bedroom, the door securely locked, and when the time came to emerge, I glided through my own home like a specter. They observed. Naturally they did. Yet not a single word was uttered about that fateful night in the laundry room or the manner in which I had fled from their presence. Their behavior instead took on a more calculated nature. They had shed their former boldness and recklessness. They exhibited a remarkable sense of patience, as if they were observing my descent, biding their time for the ideal opportunity to pounce once more. As Daniel stepped through the door that Friday evening, I felt a wave of relief wash over me, and I nearly fell into his embrace. His smile, his scent, his warm voice, it brought back memories of the person I once was, the person I aspired to become. Yet I had transformed beyond that woman. "I missed you," he whispered, enveloping me in his embrace. "I missed you as well," I deceived, pressing my face into his shoulder. In abundance. Under the veil of night, he embraced me with a passion that ignited our souls, softly, with great attention, as if a man clung to the notion that his wife was still his to possess. Afterward, tears streamed down my face, in hushed stillness. As I lay next to him, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, I pondered whether the woman in this bed would ever find it within herself to forgive. The answer was clear to me. She was unable to. Moreover, the world had no intention of allowing her to escape the shadows of her past actions. It all began with Tyler. The following afternoon, as Daniel tended to the lawn with his mower, I found myself in the kitchen, rinsing dishes, when Tyler entered the room. He lingered in my shadow, far from it, merely close by. Before his presence came into view, I sensed him, the intensity of that heat, the essence of that energy. "You are merely pretending," he said softly, "yet I'm certain that the memory lingers with you." I switched off the faucet. "Please refrain from this action. Not at this moment. Not while he is present." Tyler let out a soft chuckle. "Do you really believe that I am concerned? You surrendered yourself to us, Amanda. You allowed us to savor your essence. It lingers, refusing to fade into the background." My fingers clutched the rim of the sink. It was an error. On a solitary night. It held no significance. He advanced with measured intent. "That night your intentions were clear. I am aware that you did." I turned and walked away, yet my pace was insufficient. He seized my wrist, a touch both tender and resolute. "You are deceiving yourself," he remarked. "It is consuming you from within." He was indeed correct. Yet I wrenched my hand free and ascended the stairs in a fury, trembling. That evening, Daniel proposed a family dinner, just the four of us. I managed to conjure a smile and uttered a yes, despite the turmoil churning within my stomach. We ventured to a steakhouse located merely a few blocks from our neighborhood. Daniel dominated the conversation from start to finish, concerning employment, concerning what lies ahead. He felt an immense pride as he observed his boys evolving into resilient young men. I almost sputtered on my wine. Dylan sat opposite me, composed and collected, his dark eyes fixed intently on my face. His gaze held an unsettling quality, a hidden truth, a looming menace, as if he was challenging me to reveal the truth. Yet I refrained. I remained silent and fulfilled my duties as a dutiful housewife. Once the meal had concluded, we made our way back home. Daniel had a desire to remain awake and indulge in a film. I confided in him that weariness had settled upon me. I pressed my lips to his cheek and retreated to my bed, yet slumber eluded me. In the enveloping shadows, my heart quickened its pace. My mind replayed scenes endlessly, a relentless echo of a cruel, broken record. And then arrived the letter. Monday morning had arrived. Daniel had departed for work. Dylan and Tyler appeared to be lost in slumber, or so I presumed. As I approached the front door, my eyes fell upon an envelope, its surface adorned with my name inscribed in striking bold letters. No stamp present. Unidentified origin. Only my name. I unsealed it. Within lay a photograph. I exist. Reclining in the sanctuary of my sheets, in the company of both. Exposed. Intertwined. The perspective was unmistakable, excessively transparent. My hand darted to my mouth. A note lay hidden behind the photo. Merely 3 words. We possess you. I was on the verge of crumpling right there. My legs buckled beneath me, and I collapsed onto the floor, gripping the envelope as if it were a fragile treasure that could vanish at any moment. The rhythm of my heart pounded fiercely, reverberating in my ears. Panic surged in my throat, bitter and acrid. Photographs had been captured. This had been meticulously orchestrated. It was not an error. It lacked spontaneity. It was a cunning snare. And I had plunged headfirst into it. I leaped to my feet and dashed upstairs to face them, but as I swung open Dylan's door, he had vanished. Tyler was also present. I dialed their numbers. Silence prevails. For hours I wandered restlessly. Tears streamed down my face. I endeavored to contemplate. Is it wise to confide in Daniel? Ought I to reveal the truth before they leverage it against me? Or would that ultimately unravel everything regardless? That afternoon, Dylan strolled in as if the world had remained unchanged. I trapped him in the corridor. What could this possibly be? I spat, thrusting the photograph against his chest. He cast a glance at it, a smirk playing on his lips, before returning it with a casual flick of his wrist. Coverage. What is it that you desire? He advanced with measured intent. What do you believe our desires are? I will tell Daniel, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. Proceed, he urged. Demonstrate it to him. Prepare yourself for the possibility of losing it all. He strolled by, a tune escaping his lips. On that particular night, I found myself unable to eat. I remained silent. I found myself in my room, swaying gently, teetering on the brink of something profound, for that was precisely what I had transformed into. The days that followed were nothing short of excruciating. Each gaze carried an air of menace. Each exchange held an underlying significance. Within the confines of my own home, I felt like a captive, trapped by the very decisions I have made. What could possibly be more disheartening? No one was aware. Not even Daniel, until that fateful night when everything unraveled. Daniel returned home from work earlier than usual. In the solitude of the laundry room, his voice echoed, calling out for me. Amanda! I am present, I declared, attempting to maintain an air of normalcy. He entered, clutching his phone tightly. His face was ashen, his eyes were wide. What is this? He inquired, gesturing toward the screen. The image was everything. It arrived in his possession without a name attached. In that instant, my entire world crumbled to dust. He gazed at me as though I were an unfamiliar face. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. He pivoted and strode away. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the house. In an instant, my marriage came to an end. The boys emerged victorious. Ultimately, we all faced defeat.